News Talk 98.9, The Roar of Memphis. Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Welcome to Tool Talk Radio, everybody. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning.
I'm Allan Gilbreth, darkoakmedia.com.
And I'm Maximilian, hoping to atone for my mistake from last week by being derelict in my duties by not wishing you a happy horseradish month. So this month, we celebrate National Sandwich Month.
Okay, all right, so you're on the game.
And National Mustard Day.
Okay. Any mustard is on the table, so...
Sure.
Mustard is a tricky food, Allan. I mean, it is a tricky... too much, and you ruin it. Not enough, and you don't even know it's there. So,
it's not tricky for me.
Okay.
Allan knows how to cut the mustard.
All right, so you're ahead of the game this time, Max. Good for you. So, because, you really dropped the ball with Horseradish Month. Think of the conversations we could have had, Allan. All month. I'm a big horseradish fan. I'm a horseradish enthusiast.
I know that you're a deeply rooted fan.
There you go. Okay, so that's on the table today. And so, folks, today we got our buddy Jay Hill dropping in, and he's gonna talk about the exterior protection of your home, but he's also going to be joining us for some of our other discussions, like our great moments in building history. We're continuing our Memphis-centric great moments in building history. So 100 North Main, which, full disclosure, Allan, I've never been in that building. Of course, was it closed? I've only lived here 30 years. Has it been closed for 30 years?
No. It's only been closed since about 2014.
Okay, but you are very familiar with this property.
I've almost lived in that building for years.
It's a little bit like the Clark Tower.
Yeah. Well, you're thinking...
the I-Bank building.
I-Bank, yeah. But it's making a comeback. That's what they say.
Well, we'll talk about that.
Okay,
we'll see.
All right, so we've got that. If time permits, I want to follow up with our tree discussion, because this week was pretty epic over in my neck of the woods with this tree situation. The problem's been solved and my house didn't get crushed, so I'm pretty happy about that.
I got a little tree story myself, so we're good.
So, Allan, now this was interesting. I don't know how often we talk about flushing out your hot water heater, but all hot water heaters. Well, I shouldn't say it's not the hot water heater. It's the quality of your water and the nature of your water. Here in Memphis, I guess we're a little more fortunate.
We are so blessed.
We are really spoiled. But, man, I think I remember some of this growing up in Chicago with calcium deposits and all that. So we're going to talk about that. There's a procedure. We're not going to probably get to it this week, but I do think it's worth mentioning before we jump into our other things. So a couple weeks ago, I mentioned that we have an upcoming segment. It'll probably be ongoing, and we're calling it the Cosmic Homeowner. And you talk about timely, Allan. And basically, here's the premise, folks. Our homes are built on a gigantic organic spacecraft hurtling through the galaxy on top of shifting volcanic tectonic plates beneath us. So the more aware we are of that, the better homeowners you'll be. And I mean,
yeah. It's kind of like, wow, you're actually underselling the volatility that is planet Earth.
Yeah, I mean, so this week we had the Perseids meteor showers.
We did.
I don't know if it's related, but but it's also, we had an earthquake which triggered tsunamis, which triggered aftershocks, which maybe even triggered a volcano,
possibly.
And that was just this week. And then we had odd weather patterns, and we've had it's been weird, and it affects all of our homes, whether we live in the path of the tsunami or not. Well, all of this is connected. It's one planet,
the butterfly
folks.
effect.
Yeah. So
it gets even more personal than that, I promise you.
Yeah. So I mean, if time permits,
shake my head and say yes.
But this deserves an in-depth conversation. So look forward to the Cosmic Homeowner. And of course, there's a lot more. We all trust us, folks. We got plenty going on today, and we'd love to hear from you as well. But before we get to any of those things, this is a Max must-have item of the week, and so it's going to be weird, of course. So
doesn't this look a little bit like a medieval torture device?
Well, I don't know if Allan can see it from where it show Allan what you're holding up.
It looks like a gerbil's fork.
Okay, so what is this, Max? Tell us what you're holding up.
Well, you called it a 6-punch leather awl.
Right.
I call it like a 6-punch stitching for leather stitcher.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because what it's for is to score holes in order to create holes for when you're stitching leather because, leather can be quite uncooperative.
Well, leather's. So basically, Max, you're making a sword sheath with our buddy Cliff.
Okay.
And he's been working over in his workshop. This is some serious leather. You don't just poke a needle through there, right?
No.
And here's the thing about leather too. I call this tool tail too as well. It's my second all or nothing.
Oh, great. Okay,
okay.
but and AWL, right? Did I spell it right?
Right. And I'm going to add on to that because you've got the 6-prong, which basically looks like a hamster's fork.
Yeah.
A little pitchfork. I'm also going to throw in the single main punch awl. And since you're going to bring up an awl, because nothing can line up a hole better than a single punch awl.
Now,
If
are you
you're-
talking about even for wood? And
you're trying to get two things to go together, and you just can't get them to thread up.
Yeah.
That single punch awl and/or a single punch nail driver, if you'll slip that little darling in there, you can make minor adjustments around to where you can get threads to line up. You need to put a small hole in something to thread something through. Having an awl in your toolbox is, oh my gosh, almost critical.
And the thing to note too is for people who are doing leather working, I learned this myself, maybe you could call it the hard way, but there's a difference between the amenability of materials versus old leather, aged leather, and new leather. New leather does not want to go down, so you might have to put a pretty substantial, kind of give it a little bit more of a wiggle, with regards to, because it might be one to close up again.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, Max, when you were making this, and I don't know that we described it. It looks basically like a very flat fork, and it's not big. It's smaller than you couldn't eat with this. I mean, you could have a cup,
Like I said,
a
it's a
little tomato
gerbil's
or
pitchfork.
something. Yeah. But Max, what kind of hammer were you smacking this with?
I was using a mallet.
Okay, so like a rubber mallet or
I
probably
didn't have
wood.
rubber.
You
I
got
had
wood.
no
metal.
rubber wouldn't work actually. Now that I think of it, yeah.
I had one of those flat hammers. It looks a little bit like a smaller version of Mjolnir.
Oh, like a ball. Okay, I know what you're talking about. So yeah, because you also don't want to smash the thing and bend it. But
Exactly.
But I know a lot of our cosplayer friends have these things because leatherwork's cool. I feel like that's something I could actually get into because it's more akin to woodworking, in my opinion. Than
You have to plane. You have
than
to plane.
sewing.
You have to plane and basically sand it. There's a thing called burnishing where it's you have to treat it with the tips with beeswax, and then you use a wooden thing in order to round it out and give it a nice smooth edge.
And everybody listening, especially in the Germantown horse community, is going, oh, you want to talk leather work?
Oh, right, yeah.
Wait till you start getting into working with, we'll call it the rule tack.
Yeah.
Because you get into the belts and the strapping, and I got to tell you, there's nothing worse than something coming loose.
Yeah.
And when you are relying on leather strapping and that kind of stuff to keep things together, leather work becomes very important to you. So why does leather work mean to the average homeowner? A lot more than they actually realize.
Somewhere in your house, you probably have something that's been
That has
punctured
been
and it's been
designed,
used,
yes.
Right.
Mhm.
So that's not a bad one, Max, and it's nice and portable. But it looks to me like you got to keep it sharp and don't go slamming that on. And also, if you're using an awl like that, make sure you have a nice soft piece of wood or something under it so it's not denting every time you.
Right.
You don't want the tips to bend and everything. So, all right. Well, that's not a bad one, Max. It's definitely unique, just like you are. So it's on brand. But, oh, boy. All right, let's shift gears, you guys. Here we go.
Oh, the humanity. Did Allan earn the goat screams this week?
Yeah,
Oh,
We're getting to Allan's week in review early because before Jay gets in here because, well, as far as I could count, Allan, just based on the text you sent me and the and the pictures, I'm counting about 6 or 7 different projects this week. So,
all right. Well, one, I'm going to start off just right out of the hat. And I promised a young man I'd give him a shout out. His name's Marlon. And Marlon proved to be the king of complete understatement.
like Max? You mean? What do you mean? Like
No, far smoother than Max. Far
Okay.
smoother. So of understand, all right, I'm walking around a building doing an evaluation, and we're going to get into footwear in a minute because I'm very particular about my footwear, but I managed to snag the tip of my tennis shoe upon a lovely tree root.
Okay. Yeah, that's never fun.
And proceeded to rip the sole off the bottom of my shoe.
In one, wow, you must have really snagged it at the perfect angle.
It was kind of going downhill, and I think the shoe already had some damage, but yeah, next thing you know, I'm doing the clown walk.
Oh, gosh.
Whackety, 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 flop, flop, flop. And I'm sitting there thinking, I do not want to drive all the way back across town to go get a new pair of shoes.
Right.
So went to a shoe store, walked in, and of course, flappity, 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 flappity. Young man walks by me, and I'm like, hey, can you help me with shoes? Like, yeah, of course I can. So I literally just kick that one off and hand it to him, and I go, I need another one of these.
Give me one of these, yeah.
He goes, I assume in better shape.
Yeah.
And I knew at that moment I was going to like this guy.
That's Marlon?
Yeah, that's Marlon. So we get over to the shoes, and he's standing there, and he looks at me, and he looks at my assistant, and he goes, that is a really good shoe. Then he hands me one and goes, this one might be a little more durable, if you know what I mean.
Okay, there you go.
Cracking. So all of these
was having fun
soft
with this
statements. Well, somebody walks in and hands you a shoe ripped in half and goes, here, I need one of these.
Well, for one thing, he knows it's a guaranteed sale.
Oh,
You're not walking out without a pair of shoes.
I'm obviously making a purchase.
Right.
And, of course, we go through the whole process, and at the end of it, they're having some big sale, right?
Okay.
And he's like, why are you just getting one pair?
Yeah. Oh, here we go. Yeah, so Marlon was a sales guy. He knew. Okay, he was cashing it. All right, well, but there was a lot that happened in Allan's Week in Review, and we're going to hear about it when we come back here on Tool Talk Radio.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Extraordinary events call for extraordinary actions. We form an allegiance to use sudden violence. Okay. Do you have the tools to turn a wooden mop handle into a stake? Which size?
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
I like a can-do attitude, so I can't really argue with him there. And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, everybody. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. And if you're just tuning in, we should alert you that this is, we're kicking off National Sandwich Month. And I think, let's face it, sandwiches are just a part of our life, and especially if you're out there on the job site, I'd love to know what's your go-to sandwich. I'm kind of partial to roast beef with some horseradish.
Or try to stump Allan with a type of sandwich he's never heard about or made.
Now, Allan, I do have to ask: have you ever had a authentic Chicago Italian beef? And
in Chicago, as a matter of fact.
And do you do full dip, or do you get it on the side? Because there's a difference. So you have to do full dip.
I've had it dunked, but I'm just not a fan of a soggy lump of bread wrapped around some meat.
You're not eating this in your car while you're driving. It's
exactly.
Messy. You're going to need about 50 napkins for this. So,
if you're going to do it right, you need to be at a table with a bucket.
Yeah. But I've seen them done wrong too. So but anyway.
So yes, I have had a full dunk in Chicago. I know what you're talking about.
Okay, and it's also National Mustard Day, so maybe the two could pair up together. So.
No, mustard and sandwiches?
Yeah.
Really? Who'd have thunk it?
Okay, but Allan, it's funny because off the air we were discussing. You just happened to mention that you destroyed a pair of shoes on the job site, and it was to the point where you really couldn't work safely, so you had to stop and make a shoe run. But, shoes are actually important to mention on the, you got to have the right shoes for the job. So,
unless you're Prince Mongo.
He has no shoes for his. But Allan, I feel like I'm sure Jay Hill's guys, they need traction. They need the right kind of shoe.
There is actually a roofing textured shoe.
Is there?
There is actually a shoe designed to grip the surface of a roof.
And to handle heat, I'm assuming.
And to handle the heat and that kind of stuff. It's the way the sole is designed. And a friend of mine that's a roofer goes, your shoe doesn't work? I said, no. And he goes, fall off the roof. Yeah. I went, no, I don't want to fall off the roof. Thank you.
Yeah.
He goes, yeah, you check your shoes real quick before you get up there and start running around.
I'm wondering if they also have, because you mentioned, Joe, during the top of the show like the tree stuff. So I imagine tree people also have their special types of shoes too.
I would think everybody. Yeah, and it's funny because whenever I'm buying a pair of shoes these days, I didn't used to think this way because the bottoms of the soles were usually fairly, they had traction to them. These days, the first thing I do if I pick up a pair of shoes, even if I like the way they look, I rub my hand across the bottom, and if it's got that slippery plastic stuff, I don't buy them because I need traction. You need safety and everything. But I do have a question. Why, I don't remember this growing up, and I don't remember this even in the last 10 years, but why are there shoes that have a little, I've seen shoes like they're sort of flat, like Vans or something, and they have a piece of fabric on the leather. I'm like, why are on the sole? That makes no sense to me. I mean, it gets dirty, it peels off. What's
makes
the point
perfect
of that?
sense. It is the way the U.S. Imports and exports things and how we qualify things.
Okay.
So the simple fact that it has a little piece of fabric on it means that it is a slipper, not a shoe.
Oh, come on. So that's a technicality.
That is a technicality that gets you by and around lots of things.
You know what, Al? It reminds, not to make this into, not to sidetrack, but there's a great episode of Top Gear where they test drive the I don't know, the Renault, the 3-wheeled car.
Yes.
It's got one wheel in the front.
The Reliant.
The Reliant, which is like the dumbest name because it's
It's
unreliable.
not, right.
But every time you take a turn more than 20 miles an hour, the car tips over.
Yes.
Well, I heard the reason they made a 3-wheeled car was because at some point back in the day, they could technically qualify it as a motorcycle, and you avoided all these extra fees and everything.
Right.
So you're risking your life to save some tax money.
Yeah, there it's kind of like in Napoleonic law back early in the day, if the stairs were on the outside of the building, they didn't count.
Oh, really?
So you could build a 2-story house and only be taxed as a 1-story house because the stairs were all on the outside.
Is that why they had fire escapes?
Well, that's kind of where the idea wandered in from. But,
yeah. That's
there's always a loophole that somebody's trying to exploit
I just
somewhere.
have to say, the French.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thanks, man.
Yeah. Welcome to, looking at buildings and stuff like that. So,
all right. But Alan, you did more than just buy shoes this week. So.
Well, we're going to go have a little toilet fun here real fast. And, I'm sitting there talking to the lady and she's telling me about her toilet and it's running all the time.
Oh, so, yeah, we've heard that tale before.
Well, but, in my brain, I've been installing Fluid Masters for 35, 40 years now?
Yeah.
And I said,
the Fluid Master is the inside guts of your toilet.
It's just that thing over on the left-hand side that kind of controls how the water comes in and goes out. And I was like, all right, well, it's really simple. There's a little thing to the left. And she's like, no, there's not. And I'm like, okay, what do you have? And I'm like, all right, I know for a fact the neighborhood you live in is exactly 30 years old.
Oh, so it's not even an old neighborhood.
It's I know exactly when this neighborhood was built because I live down the street from it.
Okay.
And I'm looking at that and I'm like, all right, what do you mean? So she sends me a picture. Welcome to the 50s. I don't know where somebody had this toilet in storage when they built this house. But
She's got a retro toilet.
Dude, it was all the way to the ball with the metal stems sticking across and not a Fluid Master.
Was she economizing or did this toilet look cool?
This is what came with the house.
So somebody had a toilet in their shed when they built this
Somebody
place
had this baby in the warehouse because, I'm trying to explain this to her, and she's looking at me like I got 3 heads. And I took the top off this toilet, and I went, wow, okay, I got you. I got you. I'm with you.
So the guts were completely, and back in the 50s, they got very experimental. We've heard of this mid-century modern, and they got there were some things that they introduced, and they only were around for a year or two, right?
Oh, yeah.
They
came and went.
They came and went. They were very they were the latest trend, which is why we usually advise don't just jump on board with the
never buy
trend.
a trend, buy a standard.
Right.
So, ended up basically having to gut the toilet, put in a completely new kit. And now it's up to date. Now it's got a modern Fluid Master and all that.
Wow.
But she got so excited about this that she decided that the next time I install a toilet, she wanted to do it.
What do you mean?
So,
Jesus.
towards the end of the week on another job site, another brand new bathroom. Why I'm doing bathrooms, I have no idea. Brand new bathroom. We are doing a clean install.
Right.
So I give her a call and I'm like, all right, well, you wanted to build a modern toilet. Come on down.
There you go.
And I got to say, she actually had the best time because she's one of those people that always ask, why?
Yeah.
Why does this, just explain to me how or why this works.
Okay, well, she wants to know.
Taking one out of the box, suddenly you just watched her light up. She's like, oh, well, this goes here and that goes there, and that's why this works, and that's how that works. And the wax ring was a completely different argument.
Wait a minute. Why? Because my feeling. You spend a little more and you get that good wax ring. Don't cheap out on the wax ring.
Well, we went and bought the best possible, but we made sure we got the universal that fit the 3-inch pipe, not the 4-inch pipe.
Right.
And
the wax ring, folks, is critical for you. You don't just skip on
cents,
that. Yeah.
But without it, nothing's going to work.
And if it's too thin, and if it's too big, so get the right wax ring.
So we got this thing lined up, and watching her flush it for the first time was the best expression ever.
There you go, man. The satisfaction of working with your hands. So, yeah, that's awesome, man. So, okay, well, it sounds like a fairly successful week, but okay, speaking of successful weeks, I can't wait to find out what Jay Hill's been up to, and he's going to join us next here on Tool Talk Radio.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
The Emperor does not share your optimistic appraisal of the situation, and he is most displeased with your apparent lack of progress.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, everybody. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com. Our pal Max over there behind the glass, and a man I will pay $500 to if you can name what character that was, Jay, and what movie that came from.
I wasn't even listening.
Yeah, okay. Thanks a lot. A man who is totally clueless when it comes to the world of sci-fi and superheroes, but he knows his stuff when it comes to roofing and remodeling and the exterior protection of your home. Our good buddy, Jay Hill.
That's right.
Jay,
That's right.
how you doing, man?
Good morning. Doing good, man. Doing good. Glad, like everybody that's, you don't even have to be working outside. Just if you wanted to go outside, it's just I know everybody's excited about this little cool nip in the air.
Gosh.
I
Great.
saw the countdown. You looked at the forecast last Sunday for the week, then you saw something that was happening Thursday night into Friday, and you're going, wow, 85, that'd be cool. And then you started feeling the cool nip Thursday evening.
Yeah.
I almost need to wear a sweater.
And it was great. So next week, we're in the lower part of the 90s instead of the higher part, which is good because we literally had pushed off every roof that we were supposed to do last week into this week. So we've got a full slate coming ahead.
Well, if you're just tuning in, and if you're new to Tool Talk Radio, our good buddy Jay Hill with Big M Roofing and Remodeling is all about the exterior protection of your home, roofing, gutters, siding, windows, and all interior and exterior remodeling except kitchens and bathrooms. You want no part of that, right? And the more I'm learning about what goes into that, the less I want a part of that either.
Yeah, it's funny that I've always said that, yet it looks like I'm fixing to do a bathroom. So,
you're being drug in, huh?
I'm going to tell you why.
I feel your pain.
I'm going to tell you why. The part that I don't like about kitchens and bathrooms is trying to help somebody pick out what they want.
Yeah, you don't want to become the designer.
I'm going to tell you,
that.
That's trip after trip after trip after trip after trip after trip and change order after change order after change order. Got a customer that, by the way, found about us from the show.
Oh, cool.
Which we just couldn't say enough about them. And that happens all the time, and I say it all the time. I'm amazed in some ways just how many calls that I get, because I personally take all of my calls, as you all know, from the show, either from the ad that we do that runs with the show or the show itself. And it's about 50-50, but we've got a lot of listeners out there, man. And I tell you the other thing about it is I am amazed at how many, and this sounds bad, I'm amazed at how many professionals in the trades listen to this show.
Oh, good.
But
well, we better step up our game.
But I don't mean anything about that. I mean, that's cool.
Yeah.
So got a call, one of the 3 calls that I got last week, 2 of them which we've consummated to do business with already. One's an electrician down in Horn Lake, and, tree fell on the house, and boom, listener to the show. Knocked out the whole side of the house, neighbor's tree. But everybody's civil out in the country. It's not a Hatfield-McCoy situation. So replacing the whole side of the house, but got the roof enough. We're going to do the roof. And she's asking, this is the point we were talking about, I want to do this bathroom while we're doing this. The difference is we're going to retile a shower because it's had a problem with the pan and the moisture seeping up. And we're changing out a cabinet and painting the place. That's one thing. A total reconfiguration, jacking up a slab and moving all that plumbing, that's a different deal. So I think we're going to assist the Gamblins down in Horn Lake do that.
Oh, awesome. Well, yeah. Jay, I have a story. I had a Big M story this week, and it's reminded me of why I think you've had success. So basically, there's always It's not just, okay, Jay, and I'm not going to try to embarrass you here, but it's not the fact that you are a GAF Master Elite installer and you know your stuff. There's a lot of things about Big M Roofing that have made you successful. For one thing, you keep a low overhead.
Yeah.
And your part, and I've heard about some of your quotes. Your quotes, because I've had projects where I've referred you and your quotes always come in competitively. Yeah. And it's because you don't have 50 office building. You operate at a very lean operation.
Yeah.
And as a result of that, so you can be competitive, because what does a customer care if you've got a big fancy office, because they're paying for that.
Exactly. And we make fun of it that way, and we talk about that in the manner that you just did, but we actually have a forum with a lot of the roofers, for instance, where we sit around. Roofers Association is what it is. And we talk about things like the expenses that we have.
Right.
And it boils down to a number of an acquisition number that you use that's broke down of the amount of business or roofs or whatever your trade is, that the money that it takes you to acquire that deal.
Right.
And you do that math. You'd be surprised. My acquisition cost is $245 per installed roof. Your big guys are $1,000 and above.
Right.
Up to $2,000, one of them. That's the guys that spend all kinds of money on the internet with Google searches, that got 10 guys on the road in their trucks burning their gas, their insurance that may or may not be working, on and on and on and on. There's the point where you cannot, in my opinion, Sam Walton wouldn't appreciate this, but for me at least, being the hands-on guy that I am, I think there's a point in time where you kind of lose touch with what's really going on if you get too big. I mean, I literally check on my jobs on a daily basis, and I never want to lose that.
Right. Well, and the other thing is, as a result of that, you know how, Allan, we always say there's I know a guy, or you always have that person that knows a guy. Jay's that guy. Jay, I had a problem at my house, and it was something that was outside of my area of expertise, and I needed to get some quotes. So I got one quote, and I'm just going to say it was really high. And I told you about it, and you go, oh, I know a guy. He came out, great, very professional, just like you. He's got a very professional business, but he keeps a low overhead. They were less than half of what this other company was.
Yeah.
So I'm going with them. And so just because Jay happened to know a guy, I'm in good shape now, man. So there's all this residual stuff that comes with doing business with people like Jay.
Well, I say it often that sometimes not sometimes, all the time, I don't really know whether or not Big M Roofing is a good fit for the project that you've got going on until we sit down and talk about it.
Yeah.
But once we decide, for instance, that we are or are not a good fit for each other, if we're not, I can send you to somebody that is most likely, and that's what happened there.
Yeah, I was pretty stoked, man, because that makes a difference. But it's also nice to talk to the owner of the company. I spoke to the owner of that company.
Yeah.
He had a guy that helped, and he came out and looked, but I dealt and negotiated directly with that guy.
And everybody
I like
likes
that.
that.
Yeah.
You know, I can't tell you how much business that I've been blessed enough to get just for that very reason, because rarely are you going to do business with anybody much bigger than me and talk to the, where the buck stops, with the owner. I mean, I hear that a lot where they sent this young guy out and, he said this and that and this didn't happen and that didn't happen. Who wants to go through all that? Nobody.
Right. Exactly.
So why would you pay more to do it?
Yeah.
I mean, that's
there's
the
more
point.
filters between you and the person where the buck stops. So
Man, my phone never turns off. It's on 24/7, 7 days a week. I answer it when I'm on vacation, and that's a fact.
For some reason, I'm reminded of that quote, Joe, that you told me about, like, what was it, like Michael Jordan's agent? And he's like, I'm afraid that one day he'll figure out that my job is unnecessary.
Oh, yeah.
With regards to having too many filters and overhead, with regards to why don't you just speak to the person who is in charge of the whole shenanigan, like,
right?
The stuff.
Exactly. Yeah.
Then hadn't we all been through that where you're unsatisfied at that level, at that point of sale where you did business, and you're calling in? I'd like to speak to the president. I'd like to speak to your manager. How quick does that happen, if ever?
If ever, right?
Yeah,
right.
And they're no better. They're just yes people, So yeah, I think there's something to be said for being able to have direct contact with the people that you consummated to deal with, and that's what happens with Big M for sure.
Well, speaking of that, Jay, how do people get in touch with you if they want? Don't do it during the show. Give us an hour, then call. But how do people do that, Jay? So,
I can't wait. I usually get a call or two as soon as we're finished with the show, by the way. I mentioned that as well. Of course, I'm at 901-484-5645. That's 901-484-5645, my direct cell. And you can always, and I always encourage folks to go to our website, which I'm particularly proud of, which is bigmroofingandremodeling.com. You got to spell it out, or I'd have had to have been a .net. And full plethora of everything about us, how we do business, all our credentials, and an enormous gallery of all the projects that we're into and have tackled in the past.
Yeah, and fully licensed and accredited too, which is and insured. Don't skip that. That's huge, because you don't want to let somebody on your property to do work if they're not properly insured. So.
And I hear people say that. I know we're running short right here, but people say that all the time. When I jump out of my truck, when I'm meeting somebody for the first time, I literally put in their hand what I affectionately call my kit, which are my credentials, which are 8 pages that are stapled together that I leave with the customer, that have my business license, my contractor's license, my certifications with GAF, references, my Better Business Review, everything right there, and I leave that with them, and they all say immediately that puts them at ease. The other guy didn't give it or didn't have it when I asked for it.
There you go, man. So, all right, well, we're going to continue to visit with our good buddy Jay Hill with Big M Roofing and Remodeling. So get in touch with us if you've got any questions at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling hotline, 901-683-0989. You're listening to Tool Talk Radio. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Gonna paint your wagon, gonna paint it fine. Gonna use oil-based paint, cause the wood is pine.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
I just like making Joe mad with that one.
Yeah, he triggered me because, Jay, if you have a wagon, it's going to be used outside, and I would not use oil-based paint on wood. It's going to separate, mildew, and not perform the way it should. So thanks for that, Max.
Good. But
whatever.
It rhymed.
And it's pine, so it's a soft wood. It's going to expand and contract at a higher ratio, and it's just a disaster. Thanks a lot, Max. You ruined my morning. And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, everybody.
But I thought it would have helped. I thought it would have helped your morning knowing it's National Sandwich Month.
Okay, I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com, our pal Max over there behind the glass, and in the house, our good buddy Jay Hill with Big M Roofing and Remodeling.
And Jay, I got to ask, what's your go-to sandwich for when you're on the job site?
Yeah, I mean, come on. That's...
Man, if
if you even eat.
Well, no, and I don't that much, but we'll grab those sandwiches out in Eads at Canales, which are unbelievable. So I'll give them a shout out. We do a lot of work out that way, and even like our Latinos that are on our crew, they love them.
Oh, cool.
I mean, they're going to give you a sandwich. It's the best smoked turkey and smoked bologna and ham that you've ever put in your mouth. So one of those types of sandwiches.
Okay. All right. There you go. So National Sandwich Month. It's also National Mustard Day. And mustard comes in all shapes and sizes. We can't devote the whole show to that. So
I can, but you'd be a little lost.
Hey, Jay, I was thinking about something before we get, because I don't know, somehow we're turning this show into a conversation about good practices as a contractor, and maybe why we appreciate working with you, with Big M Roofing in terms of your business culture, your approach to how you interact with customers, like the fact that, your customers are dealing with the owner of the company. Like the buck stops with you and they talk to you directly. But one thing I've noticed on the projects where I've had you come out and quote them, and then even at my own house, I like the way you break things down very simply that people can understand it. Have you ever gone to a shop or somewhere and it seems like they purposely use the most the $20 word when they could explain it, either to make you realize how smart they are or just make it sound expensive or something. You know what I mean? It just bugs me.
I know
you're going to need the extra flange thing and it's like, just tell me in plain English what's going on.
And I get that, and you being in the trades, it would make sense that you would want it that way because you have a general understanding of the construction trades. I really pride myself in sort of just the opposite of what you're saying, in that I know that the guy that came before me, if somebody's getting a couple of quotes, I know he didn't do what I'm fixing to do. I am going to lay it all out there. I'm going to make sure that they understand what they're getting, what it does, and why it makes sense for them to do it. Mm-hmm. And, I always feel good when somebody ask me to come out. I know they're getting 2 or 3 quotes because I know I'm going to be the most thorough. I know I'm going to be the most professional, and I know I'm going to end up being the best money for them. And you put all those 3 things together, it makes it for a good recipe.
Yeah. Well, but I mean, you explain what a roofing system is,
exactly,
rather than just, hey, we're putting shingles up.
Exactly. I was at one that found me from the GAF Master Elite site about 3 weeks ago that we've consummated a deal. Roof's going on right down the street behind the Cadillac dealership on the other side of the street. Those nice homes over there. I forget the name of the neighborhood.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Nice homes back there.
East Memphis.
Yeah. Forget what we were talking about when I said that. But he found me on the website, and he said the same thing when we got done. He said, the guy before you, and he didn't tell me who it was, and I don't want to know. He said it was a young man. He said he was here for about 15 minutes. He left me this right here. I was with them for 2.5 hours, the husband and the wife.
Yeah.
So feel good about that.
Yeah, you got to break things down, and people have to understand, because not everybody understands.
All right, here's
we
the
take
truth.
It for
I
granted,
wasn't leaving until they signed. All right,
Oh,
that's
okay,
what really
yeah.
happened. No, they actually got another quote even after me, and guys, those make you feel good. At least they do me.
Yeah.
I take a lot of pride in that. Yeah.
Well, one thing I've noticed over the years, and Joe's loves to pick on me about this a little bit, but a long running side gig that I have had forever and ever and ever was, basically taking a client on a tour of the insert category killer big box store.
Yeah.
You walk into a flooring place, especially some of the gargantuan ones. You walk in, there's 120,000 square feet of flooring.
Right.
If you're not in the flooring business or in the tile business or in the tool business, this is intimidating. You walk in there and it's just like, I have no idea why this 4x4 blue tile is 99 cents and this 4x4 blue tile is $2.
Oh, good point.
You just walk in because they look like blue tiles. They're 4-inch. They're blue tiles.
Yeah, what did they do to this one?
What happened to this one? Is this just the one from the poor neighborhood, and this one got a better bus ride in, or you don't know. You have no idea. And my favorite thing to pick on in the big box stores is the aisle for caulking. It is. It is just.
It's intense.
Well, Joe, you giggle because you and I are up and down that aisle 4 times a week. Yeah. Every single week.
Spray paint's the same way, by the way.
Oh my gosh. There's what is it like 60 different cans up there? Maybe 160 at this point.
Crazy.
And each one does something different, or it's a different tint, or it's a different finish, or it's a different. And to the average person that does not do this for a living, AKA 90% of the people listening to us, man, that is like you need education when you're standing there on that aisle going, all I want to do is paint the patio furniture. That's all I want to do. And there's 160 choices.
Yeah, and see, here's the deal about that, though. That's the problem with those great big places. We've got a general idea where things are. But I remember when I was first getting started, and you got to learn the lay of the land, just like the grocery stores of the Lowe's, the Home Depot kind of things. And I'm like, man, if I could ever go in here and I could find what I wanted before I had to go to the bathroom, that would be the best thing. I mean, every time I go in there, I just can't get the screws that I want and get out without going to that bathroom. So that tells you something.
Okay. All right. Well, hopefully, anyway, never mind. But anyway. I don't want to talk about the bathrooms at the big box store. Sometimes they're good. Sometimes
well, let me clear up a couple of things real quick before you move on. Then y'all were talking about before I came on. I was sitting out in the truck, of course, waiting for the segment, and y'all were talking about a product that is called Cougar Paws, which are the shoes that a lot of roofers use. But the truth of the matter is, the roofers themselves don't use those.
Oh, really?
That much. They don't. They'll use just about anything that we would never do. It's really more for the guy like me or for you that goes up on the roof occasionally because we don't have that comfort zone that they do.
Oh, no.
I mean, they're on 12, 14, 12 pitches walking straight down them looking at a phone.
Yeah.
And we're going, oh, my God, with tennis shoes on. Mm-hmm. It's really designed for somebody, I believe, that's not up there that much. That might be a little heavier like me, for instance, and so on. So they're called Cougar Paws.
Oh, that's neat. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and you get them at the roofing supply stores. And then you're also talking about ways of subventing or getting around taxation and stuff. And we may have mentioned this before, but they were talking about the way that the old homes in England used to be taxed. And there was a myth. I found out a myth that they were, when you go into Biltmore, for instance, you go, man, this is a huge place, but these closets are tiny. Well, the people that Biltmore would say, hey, here's the reason why, because in England, you were taxed by the rooms or the amount of closets that you had, therefore that's not. And anyway, they have found for sure that that's not true, that they were actually taxed on the amount of windows that they had, so windows came out, and they got them confused.
Okay, that's interesting stuff. So, okay, Jay, we're hitting the break. We gotta go. But hey, we're gonna continue visiting with our buddy Jay Hill from Big M Roofing and Remodeling when we come back here on Tool Talk Radio.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis. Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, everybody. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com. Our pal Max over there behind the glass. And in the house, the troublemaking Jay Hill with Big M Roofing and Remodeling, a man who, if you've got issues with the outside of your home, the exterior protection of your home, roofing, gutters, siding, and windows, he's the man to call. If you want to talk superheroes and science fiction, or make sure somebody is punctual when it comes time to break time on the radio, Jay is not the person to call, Jay. You are killing me, man.
Oh my goodness! It's amazing how you can take a man who likes to keep things on the light side and have a little fun, as being a troublemaker. And that's clearly what you said. And I'm going to have my attorneys, Dewey, Cheatham,
we
and
go.
Howell.
Is that what
They'll
your
be
teacher
calling
said back
you.
in the day?
No
He
kidding.
just said it. I heard him say it. I'm no troublemaker.
I would say you're irascible. about
No
that.
respect for the time clock. No. Okay. Anyway, but Jay, hey,
Howard Sprague.
there we go. In all seriousness, we do love Jay Hill and Jay. Now, okay, here we go. It's August, and we've been through a blazing July. I think this might have been one of the hotter Julys I can remember.
It's been rough.
It's been up there.
All right, what do we need to think about on the outside of our home? We gotta protect it. At some point, we're gonna get more rain. But
Yeah.
what's going on right now when it's 100 degrees for 3 weeks straight?
I tell you what's happening in a lot of houses is I've had to do a couple of roof inspections last week, and it's so hot in these attics you just think you're going to pass out. Got one of them over that's real close to where I live, where not only is there not any attic ventilation, there used to be, but it doesn't work. They had an electric fan up there in the Whirlybird. The Whirlybird's stoved up, rusted up, if you will. Stoved up is East Tennessee, those
It
slow-
froze up, basically.
Basically,
It's
don't turn,
rusted.
don't turn anymore. And I'm telling you, man, it makes perfectly good sense why ridge vents, for instance, in roofing make so much sense. Because, man, it's so hot in there. You know it's 130, 35, or 40 even. And you couldn't stay up there more than a couple of minutes tops without just feeling faint, I believe. I wasn't up there that long. Just making sure the quick visual inspection on the decking was good. But I tell you, you got to let that hot air out of those attics, man. Absolutely will cook those shingles from the inside just like it is from the outside. And GAF says it takes up to 30% off the life of that shingle because of it. So that's part of dealing with the heat is you still have to go on, still have to get on roofs. So the stuff that I had to do, I did the visual inspection the physical inspection on getting on the roof. I did it at 6:30 in the morning because it's just, it's too hot to be up there. You can try to grab onto a hip shingle or something to come up it. It singes your hands. So
Yeah.
it's just hot. When it gets too hot or too cold, it just makes it difficult to work. We've got a sweet spot of probably 50, 60 degrees in between there, but anything over or under, we just struggle. So we didn't lay any roofs last week, but I'm reminded to answer your question of just how much that the heat plays a big factor in the overall roofing game, and how many homes still don't have adequate ways ventilation up there to get the air out. I mean, it's just incredible.
It's interesting you said that because the first thing I would have expected is, we got to look for. You think of the heat, you're thinking how it's affecting the outside. It's curling the shingles or wood is separating or whatever, but it's interesting because you're right, man. The inside is where all of that heat is getting stored up, and that's one of the things. Do you know who invented the ridge cap? Because to me, that's one of the best inventions.
You mean ridge vents?
Ridge vents in home improvement that I can think of.
I don't.
Man.
Allan can look it up for us. I don't know who.
I'd like to shake that person's hand, man. It's one of the best. It's a great invention. It's such an easy idea. It's but it's
yeah. When you consider what the
great.
alternatives were,
Right.
compare them to a ridge vent, you're like, what? You don't plug it up. There's no electricity. Bugs can't get in. Water can't get in, and Mother Nature just does it by herself.
Yeah.
I think I beat Allan to the chase. A man by the name of Gary L. Sells.
Yep. I was looking for his name.
Well, I hope Gary is a wealthy, man living on an island now because it is a great invention.
And then
man.
Benjamin Updike was the first one to invent a rollable ridge vent.
Wait, what is that?
That's
I know what it is.
Yeah, well, ridge vents, that's a great question. I'm glad you brought that up, though. So ridge vents traditionally come in 3 or 4 foot, what we call sticks, that you can put on. And they also come in 25, 30, and 50-foot rolls with GAF, where, you can just roll it out the ridge after you've made your cuts on the ridge, which when you've got a long ridge, anything that's 30 or more, you want to use a roll because it gives a cleaner aesthetic, not as many bumps and waves, for instance, on a ridge.
Hey, Jay, somebody out there may be listening. Maybe they have an older roof. Maybe they don't even know what a ridge cap is. I mean, a ridge vent. So can you describe it? Because you've seen them, folks. You just may not have known that you've seen them. So
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's a corrugated plastic, very heavy plastic piece that's pliable, and it's got vents on both sides of it. It's approximately 12 inches by generally 3 feet in the stick version of it. But what happens with the ridge vents is that we literally come in and we cut 1.5 inches off of each side of your ridge, which creates this opening that's now 3 inches. You actually install the pliable ridge vent apparatus over that ridge and run it down as far as it needs to go on the entire ridge. Then you put the ridge cap shingles on top of it. Everybody in just about every neighborhood in this town has got somebody that's got a newer roof, and anybody that's got a newer roof is going to have ridge vents. It's just that prevalent. So it's a small rise. If you're looking at it from the ground, you look at the top of the ridges of the home, and you'll see a little rise that's about 2 inches. That's actually what the ridge vents are. But it vents the whole attic instead of just a section of an attic,
right?
Like an electric fan or a whirlybird.
And it's doing it whether you have power or not. It doesn't matter. It is nature. And Allan understands more about air pressure and physics, but right, that hot air is moving up, right? And it's going out, and it's actually drawing air in.
Well, yeah,
right.
you said the physics of it, and one of the things I've run into recently in a lot of older homes, older constructions, is they really didn't get the air expansion and contraction, because you and I have told people now for almost a decade about how much your house really moves. And now that we're talking with our good buddies over at Groundworks, also, it's not just the attic, it's also the air under the house.
That's right.
That grows and shrinks and expands. And the other thing I want to add in is when that extreme heat begins kicking in, it also forces moisture deeper into the wood, the decking. The decking's changed over the years. So, the hotter it gets and the moister it gets, the softer your sheetrock becomes.
Because it's not just your
lot
roof.
of stuff
the heat
being
is
affected here.
The heat's affecting the wood in your attic. It's affecting everything. So
Well, let me, if I can, just briefly try to explain to our listeners something that I was blessed enough to had an opportunity to sit in about a month ago now. But GAF had our ventilation specialist out of the home office. They're doing a tour around the country to really explain the dynamics of ventilation with ridge vents or any kind of venting, okay? And what this guy did was he showed us how that we take the area that's in your attic, in other words, how much area needs to be vented, and then add the appropriate amount of ridge venting, or because remember, you can only use ridge vents up to a 12-12 pitch. Anything above that, you're going to have to use some type of power vent, which GAF also makes as well. In other words, it's good for most homes, but not for all homes. A real steep home, you couldn't use them. But in other words, what you see when you go to most homes and watch an installation is you see a guy take a saw and he'll cut from one ridge all the way to the other. When the reality is that hole might need to be half as much as that he cut it because of the area of his attic. They're just cutting it because they don't know how to do it. So we physically learned how to take the area of the attic and to appropriately cut off the right amount of ridge that's commensurate with the attic area that you have for proper ventilation. And what really happens that we didn't talk about is that it's just like opening 2 windows on each side of your house. What happens is the air gets sucked into your soffit vents and then straight up the top and out the attic. And it's a cross flow or cross breeze there, if you will, that takes that hot air straight out the top.
That's why you got to have a GAF Master Elite certification. I mean, that makes a difference. We've seen ridge vents improperly installed. But get in touch with Jay if you've got any roofing questions. If you've got any concerns for the exterior protection of your home, 901-484-5645. All right, you guys, we're going to continue our conversation when we come back. We're going to talk about a really unique roof in our Great Moments in Building History at 100 North Main.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Cool beans, man. I live by the quarry. We should hang out by the quarry and throw things down there.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, everybody. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com. Our pal Max over there behind the glass, and in the house, our good buddy Jay Hill with Big M Roofing and Remodeling. If you have any questions about about anything to do with your roof, to do with gutters, siding, windows, and the entire exterior protection of your home, feel free to get in touch with us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling hotline, 901-683-0989. But in a minute, we're going to discuss something, a structure that's probably very well known to most Memphians, and with a roofing challenge that I'm going to be very interested in discussing with Jay. Before we do that, though, let's get down to the foundation of your home. We want to talk about our good friends over at Groundworks. They are all about protecting the foundation of your home, and that could be a slab or a basement or a crawl space. We've learned, I guess, statistically, Allan, last week we learned that crawl spaces make up the most foundations of the home here in the Mid-South. But you have to have a healthy foundation for your home, and it involves protecting it from moisture, for protecting it from erosion and poor air quality. It can manifest itself in many different ways. Maybe you've got a weird squeak in that floor. Maybe you've got an odd musty smell or things like that, or unwanted insects congregating around. There's a lot of things that can indicate a problem with your foundation, and there's nobody better than our friends over at Groundworks to help you out. For one thing, this is a comprehensive inspection. They come out, it is a free inspection. They're going to do a thorough examination of the foundation, analyze the health of your foundation. It's almost like going to the doctor for a intense checkup, and then at the end they'll more or less give you the solutions that you need, and they can handle any solution. And sometimes the solutions are very easy to fix, but foundation problems never get better with age, so you have to address it as a homeowner. So get in touch with our friends over at Groundworks. You can go to groundworks.com or call 901-459-2290 and book your free inspection today. All right, Max, let's hit it, man.
And now, great moments in building history.
Full disclosure, you guys, I've enjoyed the last few great moments in building history because these are properties, Allan, I know especially you are intimately familiar with them, so I don't really have to do hardly any research. I can just ask you a bunch of softball questions, but 100 North Main, now technically it's closed right now, right?
That is true.
But it's a big building. I think we've all seen it. We've all, if you live in the Mid-South here, you've probably driven by it. But I've heard, there's talk that it's coming back at some point.
There is indeed. But let's set the Wayback Machine a little bit, since we're discussing an abandoned building.
Yeah.
Let's go back to Memphis, Tennessee in 1955, when we were part of the Memphis City Beautiful campaign, and we were generally regarded as one of the most beautiful cities in the nation.
Now, isn't that something?
For like 3 years running. We were absolutely gorgeous.
Wait, I'm sorry, Allan, because I'm from out of town. I've thought this, honestly, I thought the same thing when I looked at, like, you go to Overton Park, or you go to some of these historic neighborhoods. I'm like, this is a cool city, but I didn't know we were the top three.
We were a top, if not the winner, we were a top winner for like 3 years running, starting in 1955. And
wow.
Jay and I were talking off air briefly about a couple of other buildings like the Memphis Cotton Exchange, and due to the river and due to commerce, and due to the mayor at the time, who was William B. Ingram, and they were all very pro Memphis prosperity.
Okay.
So about 1960, the idea was Memphis needed something that really told the world you were in Memphis. Salute.
Okay.
And thus the idea behind the 100 North Main was born. So starting in the early 60s, we began building this 37 floors, 430 feet tall. And you talk about going crazy. This is 1963 technology, and we decided to put a restaurant on top of this bad boy.
Wasn't it called the Pyrenees? Wasn't it called the Pyrenees?
Later.
Okay.
It was originally the top of the 100.
Okay.
Because it rotates, right?
And this was one of the first 5 or 10 in the world. And it did. And Jay, to answer your question, I've been up there, and yes, it is pre-stressed concrete panels. And yes, Max, to answer your question, Union Planters Bank was highly involved in the projects and had a big UP sign sitting up on top of it that, as you said, all up and down the Mississippi River, you could see that sign for miles.
It was good. It was basically a lighthouse.
It actually really was.
And it's kind of interesting to note, too, that in terms of the people that were hired for this project, they also have a little bit of a reputation in Memphis. Robert Lee Hall was the one who was the architect, and he also designed the Coliseum and the Clark Tower.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yes.
Okay.
So, I mean, these people this was an exceedingly pro-Memphis movement. And we get it built. It's populated.
Sorry. What were they putting there? Was this workspace, living space,
it was work. It was the bank office. I remember as a kid, we used to take cotton receipts over there, from Front Street, because they bought a lot of cotton or handled a lot of the cotton receipts Union Planters Bank did.
This was government-related businesses, cotton, lawyers, very heavily on the high-end professions.
Okay.
This was... If you were anybody in Memphis, you wanted an office in this building.
Right.
So, and then 1968 happened.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the low point in Memphis economic development for 15 years or longer.
Sure.
So, now I remember 100 North Main as where the Board of Equalization was and a number of government buildings. And 100 North Main was, and still is, an easily identifiable centerpiece of downtown. Sadly, it, like any other building, it's had its economic turn. And about 2014 or so, it was abandoned because basically chunks of concrete were falling off of it, and the environmental court condemned it. Said, shut it down, get out.
Is it a question of were corners cut when it came to the quality of materials or whatever? Because
no.
I'm just wondering what you don't want concrete falling off. What caused that?
Well, what happens is your decline. You go from 100% occupancy to 30% occupancy.
Yeah, we see that a lot in residential homes where brick that gets to be 50, 60 years old, your mortar starts to come out, and it's got to be retucked. So that happens if it's not maintained.
Did you have something, Max, you wanted to?
Well, I just think it's kind of an interesting idea, the idea of the memories that when I was researching this too, this might be a discussion for a later part of the show, but the idea of the memories that are cemented into the structure as well. I've been reading comments from people who talk about the funny stories they had. And so the structure itself, it's just interesting, the idea of creating a structure that facilitates nostalgia and memories.
That's a good point.
Well, you see, that is probably why it's going to make a comeback. Yeah. Because it is an iconic mid-century. This is about as iconic a mid-century, what they called International Nouveau, because it's a rectangular building with a round top that had a restaurant that moved. It was the hottest technology of the time. It was the pre-stressed concrete panels. It had water management systems built into it to deal with the rotational restaurant. So, of all of this is incredibly cool, but Now, as of last year, the new owners of the building are looking at a hotel on the lower levels, upper level living areas, professional areas. So construction is back in that building.
That's exciting because that's one of the cooler selling features of the Crosstown project is you had a building that was basically functional and whatever. And now it's interesting and it's residential and it's got restaurants and it's got theater and entertainment. It's cool. You repurpose it, and it sounds like there's some repurposing going on.
There
at
is some
100 North Main.
repurposing, and this is what happens when you really build it well.
Yeah.
It still holds up.
All right, cool. We're going to continue talking about 100 North Main when we come back here on Tool Talk Radio.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Would you please come help me tamp this down? It's a job that requires 2 men.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, everybody. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. And if you're just tuning in, we had our buddy Jay Hill with Big M Roofing and Remodeling in the house, but he had to run, Allan. I guess duty calls. He gets. I don't know if somebody was calling as a result of the show, but his phone always starts ringing.
Yeah, the phone started buzzing. He suddenly looked at us and said, "Deuces."
Yeah, so he'll choose work over us every time. I've noticed that, but it was fun having him in the house. So. Well, we're in the middle of our Great Moments in Building History discussion, and we've been doing sort of a Memphis-centric focus in over the last few weeks. And so 100 North Main is we're saying it's in play. I mean, we've been hearing this, but in fairness, we've been seeing some repurposing projects around Memphis that have actually they pulled it off. They came up, the concourse over in on Cleveland. That one sort of stands as a model of what you can do with an old building.
Well, the Overton Park Shell is a huge testimony to why of well-built old structures are worth renovating and putting back in play.
Right.
One, they do have the nostalgia factor. Two, they don't look like everything cookie-cutter modern today. They usually have got some pretty good personality to them. The third one is, as Max mentioned, there's usually a lot of memories associated with them. People remember driving by, or like the old Sears warehouse building. It was a 1 million square foot concrete beast and is now the concourse. Yeah. And now has theaters and restaurants and people live there.
It's cool. It's a cool space. If you haven't been there, folks, it's really neat to visit.
We might have a world-famous international movie producer that lives there.
Yeah.
Hint, hint, nudge, nudge, wink, wink.
Yeah. One story that I thought in particular that I thought was interesting was with regards to nostalgia was I like this one guy who talked about going to there during the construction back in 63 or 64. And you wouldn't get this nowadays with construction workers or with just this sorts of attitude in general. He was a teenager sneaking in. He's like, all right, I want to go to the top floor. And the guy, and it was back in the day where elevators didn't fully go to the top floor. It'd be like, all right, 1 to 22, and then 22 to 37. So he got to level 22 at the connecting elevator, and he saw this guy who turned out to be the elevator mechanic. He's like, what are you doing here? And he's like, well, I'm just kind of curious to poke around. And so rather than telling him to get out, kid, he took him to the top floor, took him to the control room to show him how the elevator worked, then took him back down and said, hey, you probably shouldn't be going on construction sites.
Yeah, no kidding. Okay, well, but hey, you know what? Good for that guy. He gave that kid an educational, and we don't know what he might have grown up to be, and it's always good to learn things, but yeah, don't be trespassing on a
don't go someplace that's going to kill you.
Yeah, and one day, remind me to tell you about my buddy Terry Burnt when we snuck onto a construction site as kids, and he has a permanent scar now as a result of something that he did there.
Yeah, don't touch stuff.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry to sidetrack, but hey, I do have a question though, Allan. Are they gonna? As far as you know, is that rotating restaurant? Is it possible to bring that back? Because that's pretty cool. A rotating restaurant. I mean. The location of 100 North Main is a selling point, too. It's right there.
Oh, I mean,
Look at the views you're going to get.
It's pretty amazing. Well, and that's exactly why they chose to do that. I haven't heard now of Mayor Paul Young when he did a tour of the building postulated that it would be incredibly nice to get the restaurant back up and going.
Hint.
Yes. I mean, we've had some hints, but it's really honestly going to come down to the economics. I would personally be really happy if they put the restaurant back into service, but it didn't rotate.
Why is that?
Because that would save them millions of dollars in mechanical, we'll call it chicanery. Because if
there's
it
a million
moves,
things that can go wrong.
If it moves, it's going to break.
Yeah.
If it doesn't move, then a lot of things can be sealed up, can be watertight, and we don't have to worry about all of that mechanics working. And it can go back to just being a beautiful view over the river.
Okay.
And what I like about it is, too, in terms of it's location. And what I like about the restaurant itself is what the commerce that it facilitates. Like, it's a very, you might call it ecumenical experience, because you have people from all different walks of life, all different parts of the day, all coming to this place at the top of the tower. And I just think it's pretty interesting, because you might run into lawyers, you might run into a dentist, you might run into somebody whose father is the president of the Tennessee Club,
or a tourist,
Yeah.
I don't know, Alan. No, but I'm not. I think a rotating restaurant would be pretty cool, and our technology's advanced a lot. I don't know.
I think it's a great idea, but if it comes down to
if it's $80 million,
if it's no restaurant, or just give me my goal is a little lower. Get me a restaurant. If it rotates, great. If not,
okay,
get me a restaurant. Get me a reason to want to go back to the top of this building. Over at the Pyramid, there is a lovely restaurant with a viewing deck that goes out over the river. So having a restaurant up there is a great idea.
Okay, yeah.
Now, if it moves, fabulous. If it doesn't move, at least get me a restaurant.
Okay.
So now they're running into a lot of the usuals, because this was built in 1965, and a lot of codes have changed, and a lot of things have deteriorated. So basically, they're going to be rewiring, re-airing, and the biggest thing is they'll be bringing it up to modern fire codes.
Well, there you go. Yeah. They need a plan if you're on the 30th floor.
Because
how to get out.
There was actually a fire back in 2017, and the fire department had to lug up 34 stories, because it's like they don't know how it was started. They just know that it was on fire, and it impressively only took them 40 minutes to put it out, even though you had to lug up 34 flights of stairs.
It'd be interesting, Max. I just thought of we should get a guest sometime that's an expert, like maybe from the fire department, that can talk about modern fire codes. Because now that you're saying that, I'm just thinking there's probably a lot of things. It probably has to do with sprinkler systems, evacuation chutes,
Speaking of
stairway. I don't know. There's probably a lot of things that go into
the biggest change to all of that is fire putty, fire caulk.
Right.
Is the fact that we now pack all of these little places where the pipe goes through the roof, and instead of leaving a little air patch around it or using some kind of filler foam, we now have products made by a variety of companies that are specifically designed to stop fire from spreading.
There you go.
Just a brief aside with regards to safety people. Back when this was, in its in state of decay, back in the 80s, this was actually used by the police department and the SWAT to do training and room clearings. And so there's photos where this guy actually went in, and you still see the cutouts of life-size posters of criminals with stereotypical 80s haircuts holding guns at you.
Yep, I know those floors.
Yeah. Well, and Al, so you talked about something. You said something earlier that sort of stuck out at me. You said that at one point it was 30% occupancy for I don't know how many years this might have been. Well, what did they do with the empty floors, and how much air circulation was there, and how much, you know what I'm saying? It's like, I guess I'm just wondering what it does to a building when it's just empty and it's not. We talk about that. It's,
All right. The thing about a building, the reason you do, oh my gosh, here's where we're really going to get into air conditioning and occupancy. Buildings do not want to be empty. Let me just flat out say that. A building does not want to be empty. A building wants to be maintained. Translation, when we build stuff, we are building stuff human-centric, which means basically it needs or wants a human to occupy it.
Kind of like a car. It needs someone to drive it.
You don't
needs,
just sit a car in a field.
Yeah, it's not a paperweight. It can become one pretty quick. So when you're not air conditioning and controlling the humidity in these buildings, of course you get rust and you get decay. You get the biggest thing that I've noticed in a lot of old buildings is the pervasive cooking and softening of the plaster or sheetrock.
That's because you see these old buildings and you see the it's peeling off. It's like it's shedding. And
it's exactly what it is doing.
Right.
And you just and with what we know about mold and that kind of stuff these days, you just don't want a building unoccupied. You don't want a building unair conditioned.
Yeah.
These things are critical to the life expectancy of a building. Now, the way the core of the 100 North Main was built, it is renovatable.
Because you said the structure itself is sound. So it's like,
well, at the risk of angering historical preservationists out there are buildings that are worth renovating, and there are other buildings that I hate to say it because of, we're going to call it poison pill construction. There's something about that building that is not recoverable.
Yeah.
And it's tragic. And it's really tragic when it's something of historical note. But there are certain buildings out there that when they've reached the end of their economic life, they've reached the end of it.
Yeah. And Allan doesn't want to talk about the Coliseum because he doesn't want to annoy anybody. So,
man,
anyway, we'll have a few parting thoughts. And then I do want to share a tree tale. You're listening to Tool Talk Radio. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
If you need to go to the bathroom after this next series of tests, please let a test associate know, because in all likelihood, whatever comes out of you is going to be cold. Only temporary, so do not worry. If it persists for a week, though, start worrying and come see us, because that's not supposed to happen.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
No comment.
That's
Max.
why 100 North Main is closed.
Yeah. And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, everybody. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. And we're just waking up and you're asking yourself, I wonder what they talked about today on Tool Talk Radio. We don't have time to recap it, Allan. I mean, we're down to the last segment. But never fear, there's always a way to catch up on any of the Tool Talk Radio shows. So,
absolutely. Tool Talk and its entire history is available as a podcast. We talk about tools and fixing up old stuff, but we are modern. You can go to YouTube or Spotify or wherever you get your podcast from and dive in and listen to us. We're also online at tooltalkradio.com.
There you go. And if you're one of those out of country listeners, especially if you live in an exotic climate, well, I would love to know what sort of home improvement challenges you face. And also, what is what I'm really curious about, Allan? If you live in Norway, or if you live in the North Pole, or if you live in New Zealand, I want to know what your toolkit is. Your at-home junk drawer with what do they keep? Do they keep boa constrictor spray? Do they keep, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? It's like, who knows what they have in there? So we want to know.
We're happily in over 20 different countries at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's cool. Modern technology has its benefits. So if you're just tuning in, though, we are talking about 100 in our Great Moments in Building History. We're talking about 100 North Main, which is if you Google it, folks, it's it's a cool looking building. It looks very functional. It has a rotating restaurant at the top, and it was closed in 2014. But there are people in play that are apparently they bought the property. They're talking about repurposing it for maybe residential and a combination approach, which I think is the way to go. So, but before we change gears, though, Max, you said there was somebody that was almost like a celebrity over at 100 North Main, right?
Well, there was a woman by the name of Sarah Ann Waddell, and her nickname was Miss 100 or Miss Information. She was a receptionist.
Misinformation.
She was the first person that you saw walking into 100 North Main. She had what was called an 8-hour smile, and she was a 20-year-old part-time model and professional receptionist, essentially.
So she had to know what was going on. That was before the internet. She couldn't just Google.
She was the internet downtown, yes.
What's kind of funny, though, is, she was technically, engaged at the time, but they said this would be a great... she said, this would be a great place to work if you were single and unattached. There were a lot of people who ask for information but don't clearly need it.
Yeah.
Because it just so happens
she
that
probably, yeah.
Welcome to the 60s.
It just so happened that a lot of the people who asked her for information were handsome, interesting men.
Okay, yeah. So misinformation. It's interesting, though, because it sounds like she was sort of a know-it-all. Like she knew what was going on, and yet her name was Misinformation. So, all right.
Well, it was, MZ, Ms.
Now, it would be an interesting little throwback if they had somebody as a greeter to, if they reopen, I don't know, at the reception desk. So
be kind of fun.
Okay. Misinformation. So, all right. But yeah, check it out, folks. And I guess we'll be following this. I really hope this happens. And, we've seen projects that they sound daunting and they sound unrealistic, and yet they get done. And this one sounds like it could be very doable. So, okay, so I want to change gears, folks. If you were listening last week, I told you that it's weird, Allan, the way this show unfolds in real time and the way things 2 weeks ago, I was driving through my neighborhood, and I mentioned it on the air that I live in a neighborhood where there is this trend back. There are all the homes that were built in the 50s, and somebody thought it was a great idea to plant a tree 10 feet from your house. Mm-hmm. And of course, back when they planted it, I'm sure these things were probably 10 feet or 15 feet tall. Now these are gigantic trees, and they're aging out, and they're starting to fall apart, and it's a ticking time bomb. Well, the next week, one of my neighbor's trees, a big limb fell into our front yard. Luckily, it missed the house, but they went ahead and a big shout out to Frank because he's a loyal listener. But Allan, he had the guys come over. They said this tree is, it's mostly threatening their house. Yeah. It's time to get rid of it. They gave him a really good price too. I think he owes these guys a steak dinner. They did a really good job. But Allan, watching tree guys, for one thing, we have power lines. They were navigating power lines and not crushing my neighbor's house or crushing my house. And the science and the physics behind this are really impressive. And it's amazing how big a tree looks when you take it down and cut it up. And I mean, they had 4 or 5 loads that they had to get rid of with this. But have you ever, I'm sort of in awe of these guys. They had ropes, pulleys.
Yes.
The way they cut these things scientifically, and no damage done, man. They did a great job. But
well, it's any type of demolition where somebody knows what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
If you ever watch somebody bring down a building, you can go on YouTube, find lots of them. When it goes right, it is spectacular. Dropping a tree, especially around houses, is not something for an untrained person.
No,
I'm just kind of curious that the evolution of the felling a tree, because if it was in a forest back in the day and you just had an axe, I imagine you'd be a little less forgiving of the environment around you.
Yeah, if you're
incorrect, because you've got to get that tree out. See, the whole point.
Oh, that's true. You don't just cut it down and leave it.
That is the point. Was you're not just cutting down a tree. You're cutting down a tree for a reason. You need lumber. You need this. You need that. So the real secret was to drop that tree exactly where you wanted, especially if you were using a mule team that you had to hook up to it and drag that tree out of there.
So Sven can get lumber for his long ship.
I got news for you.
That's a good point. If you're planning on having it fall west and it falls east, that's 180 degrees out of whack, and you don't know what it might take to turn it around.
I'll tell 2 tree felling stories. One was yesterday. Got a call, and somebody goes, well, yeah, I've got a dead tree, and it's hanging over my car, and it's begun to arc. So the tree had died, and then the tree has now begun to dry out, and it's leaning and bending so that it's leaning right towards, you can actually see the tree is like getting even with the homeowner and is aiming for the car.
Right.
So it's kind of like, okay, all right. So we swung by yesterday, and, I whipped out the trusty sawzalls and chainsaws. And the trick is you've got to notch a tree exactly right.
Oh, yeah. There's a
and then if you've notched
30 degrees, right?
If you've notched it perfectly and you've got it aimed just right, when you do that back cut, that baby will drop within 5 degrees of where you aimed it.
We should say something before we close, though, Alan,
if you are not trained to do this, don't
get near you. It honestly could
this.
It could kill you. But also, just keep in mind, a rotted tree is 10 times more dangerous because you don't know what it's going to do.
We actually got a few messages both related to the tree and also our closing thing from Great
All right,
Moments.
let's make it okay. I love when they do this 30 seconds before. Okay.
Well, we got Norman Rockwell with tree incidences. I took a tree down once near my house. I chained it to a bigger tree. Family didn't trust me and sat outside and watched as it missed the house, but took out an old storage building.
Yep.
Luckily, I was going to burn it down anyways.
That sounds about right. This Norman Rockwell must hang out with dudes.
We're going to have to meet Norman one of these days.
What else,
then they were
Matt?
saying I'm a unknown caller, 3396, said that the iBank building also had a tower restaurant that rotated.
Right.
But I think it's interesting that banks have a history of restaurants that rotate.
I don't know. Maybe they just
they're
need
showcases.
something to...
They're really trying
Give
to
us your
make
money.
that point.
Is that why you bring the big $80 million client upstairs to talk business and the rotating restaurant? Okay. Well, thanks, you guys, for texting in. Maybe do it next time, when we have more.
A little quicker.
Yeah, time to go. All right, well, it's time to get out of here, you guys. It's been another dynamic episode of Tool Talk Radio. So on behalf of my buddy, Allan Gilbreth, and our pal Max over there behind the glass, and the visiting Jay Hill, I'm Joe Thorderson. Thanks for listening to Tool Talk Radio, and we'll see you next week.
Now go eat a sandwich.